Artie stood quietly by the window, watching the afternoon sunlight spill across the front yard. It had been a strange day. Her mother had been cleaning since sunrise, and her father had barely spoken a word. As she gazed outside, a black car slowly pulled through the front gate and came to a stop. A well-dressed man and woman stepped out carrying gifts. They looked important, yet Artie had never seen them before. She frowned and pressed closer to the glass. Who were those people? The couple walked confidently up the stone pathway toward the house. The woman smiled as she spoke to the man, and the man nodded seriously as he carried a leather bag in one hand. Artie's curiosity grew stronger with every step they took. They don't look like ordinary visitors. She glanced over her shoulder toward the living room. Her mother had spent the entire morning dusting furniture, arranging flowers, and preparing tea. Her father had checked the clock so many times that Artie had lost count. Something was happening. Outside, the couple reached the front door. Why are they carrying gifts? She wondered. For a brief moment, she considered the possibility that they might be distant relatives. But deep down, she knew that wasn't true. If they were family, she would have recognized them. Before she could think any further, the front door swung open. Her parents greeted them warmly. "Please come in. We've been expecting you." Artie's heart skipped a beat. Expecting them? The guests stepped inside, and the door closed behind them. A strange feeling settled in the pit of her stomach. What is going on? For a moment, she told herself to ignore it. Whatever the adults were discussing was probably none of her business. But the uneasy feeling refused to leave. Maybe I shouldn't listen, she thought. Then she shook her head. No, I need to know. Quietly, Artie stepped away from the window and made her way toward the hallway. At that moment, she believed she was simply following her curiosity. She had no idea she was walking toward the conversation that would change her life forever. The conversation began with the familiar pleasantries that accompanied every respectable visit. They spoke of family members, good health, neighbors, and old acquaintances they had known for years. Gentle laughter rose and faded as memories were shared. For a few peaceful moments, it felt like nothing more than an ordinary family gathering. Then Mahesh carefully placed his teacup onto its saucer. His expression grew more serious. "We have known each other for many years," he began. "Our families have always respected one another." Rajesh nodded in agreement. "That is true." Mahesh folded his hands together before continuing. "That is why we are here today." Across the room, Savitri instinctively glanced toward the hallway. Standing just beyond the corner, hidden from the guests' view, was Artie. The arrival of the visitors had stirred her curiosity. She had quietly left her bedroom and now stood motionless behind the wall, careful not to make a sound. Every word carried through the hallway, and with each passing sentence her heart beat a little faster. Lata smiled warmly. "Our son Vikram is 22 now," she said. "It is time for him to marry." Savitri offered a polite smile. "He is a good young man. He works hard," Lata continued proudly. "He respects his elders. He understands responsibility." Mahesh leaned slightly forward. "And we believe your daughter would make a suitable wife for him." The room fell completely silent. Behind the wall, Artie froze. For a brief moment she wondered if she had misunderstood. Surely they couldn't be speaking about her. Inside the room, one young woman stood alone, grieving the life she had never been given the chance to choose. Rajesh cleared his throat before replying. "Artie is a good girl. She has always honored her family." "That is exactly why we are interested," Lata replied gently. Savitri lowered her eyes. "We have raised her to respect tradition." Mahesh nodded with quiet satisfaction. "Then our families share the same values." Lata carefully returned her teacup to its saucer. "A daughter-in-law should strengthen a household, not divide it." "Artie understands family duty," Savitri answered softly. "Good," Lata replied. Rajesh shifted uncomfortably in his chair. His voice carried both caution and uncertainty. "Marriage is a serious matter. The children have not met." Lata exchanged a knowing glance with Mahesh. "Many successful marriages begin this way." Mahesh's voice remained calm but unwavering. A marriage is built through commitment, not romance. Rajesh fell silent. The room seemed to grow heavier as the decision settled over everyone present. Even the ticking clock on the wall sounded louder than before. Finally, Mahesh looked directly into Rajesh's eyes. So, Rajesh, do you accept our proposal? Silence filled the living room. In the hallway, Aarti held her breath. Savitri turned toward her husband. They are both good young people, she said quietly. Rajesh closed his eyes for a brief moment before slowly nodding. Then he looked at Mahesh. Yes. A gentle smile spread across Mahesh's face. Rajesh continued, we accept. Almost instantly, Lata's face brightened with joy. Then let us begin planning the wedding. The tension dissolved into cheerful conversation as dates, ceremonies, guest lists, and preparations quickly became the topic of discussion. Excitement filled the room while the adults celebrated the union of two respected families. But standing alone in the hallway, Aarti felt as though time had stopped. Her heart slowly sank. Not once had anyone asked what she wanted. Not once had anyone asked if she was ready. Without speaking a single word, her future had already been decided. Hidden in the shadows, she listened as her life was planned by others. The laughter echoing from the living room sounded farther away with every passing second. For the first time in her life, Aarti felt completely powerless. Quietly, she stepped away from the hallway and returned to her bedroom. She gently closed the door behind her, shutting out the voices that continued discussing wedding plans. Beyond that door,